Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bull Take Podcast. I'm Austin Ware. You know the man next to me, the Austin Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, what a week of football we just had. We're getting ready to dive into it all, not just NFL. Good old combination episode. Yes, we're doing the lazy, oh, you're combining them into one episode. Guess what? Yes, we are, because we got big things planned for college football in the next week or two. If you've been a fan of this show for the last couple of years, you know what that thing is. If you haven't, then I'm not going to spoil it because it's a fun surprise for you if you haven't. But that's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Ware. Let's dive into it, Austin. Straight away, the College Football National Championship happened on Monday night. And boy, oh boy, what a classic it was. Indiana wins the national championship 27-21 over Miami and completes the greatest turnaround at least in my opinion, the greatest turnaround in the history of college football. We'll dive more into the game in a segment. I mean, just your thoughts on it. Indiana is a national champion in college football.
Yeah, no, this is a crazy story. Look, instantly the slander has already come through. You've got people online saying 16-0. Who cares? It's not impressive. This is the word. I mean, a ranking came out of the last 10 national champions the day of, and this team is ranked as the ninth best team of the last 10 years. I'll be honest with you. My personal opinion is this is the second best national championship
Right.
team in the last 10 years. I think 2019 LSU is probably the only team I'm putting above
Yeah.
this team. This is a complete football team. They did it all year. And look, if this was last year's Indiana, weren't really tested in the regular season, and in the games where they were tested, they lost. That's a different story this year. They were tested in a lot of places. They went to Penn State, played a tough game. They played an absolute classic against Oregon. They played a tough game against Iowa this season, who was, again, a top 25 team in the nation this year. They went into Indianapolis and beat Ohio State, the defending national champions. And they came in a tough, gritty game against a Miami team who got hot at the right time, and they got the job done again. Ohio State fans instantly claiming on social media, the hypothetical kings of college football, if you will. If Ohio State played these two teams, they would have stomped them. Yes, Ohio State did play both of these teams this season, and they lost. That's where Ohio State's two losses come from this season, is Indiana and Miami. So we actually do know what happens in that game, and Ohio State doesn't win a single one. And they got, quite frankly, stomped against Miami. So I don't think they'd fare much better a second time around against Indiana. But
No.
that's just what the games say.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what the games say, man. If only there was just a more fair way to decide who
Yeah.
was truly the better team, besides, just playing head to head on neutral fields. If only there was a way for that to happen.
If only we could decide who would win the game. It's almost like they played a game or something, so we already know who would win the game. But,
Yeah.
what do
I
I
mean,
know?
come on, yeah. Like, what do we know? We're just a podcast here. Which, let's talk about it. First half of this game, a bit of a snoozer. I think we could both agree that 10-0 Indiana at halftime. Indiana scored a late touchdown for halftime. Miami virtually did nothing, had the missed field goal. And it felt like going into halftime, we're like, man, this could get ugly in the second half. And Miami's offense just can't do anything. And then all of a sudden, bang, Mark Fletcher, 50-yard touchdown run. It's like, okay, we got a game now. And then the offenses woke up in the second half of this game. I mean, combining, especially the fourth quarter, combined 24 points in the fourth quarter, just back and forth, and some gutsy play calls by Indiana. Look, let's just dive into it. Play of the season, biggest play in Indiana history, that fourth down and 5 touchdown run from Fernando Mendoza. Just iconic. And I remember whenever I was watching it live and Signetti called the timeout, the second one of the half, I'm like, ooh, okay, like you got to go for it now. And then
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way Mendoza's running this year. Like that didn't even cross my mind. Like, oh yeah, Mendoza could run here. And then the pure effort to break off the tackles and the dive into the end zone, just unreal. Just unreal.
Yeah. Look, this one kind of shot me up out of the bed. I was obviously going to finish watching the national championship, but was ready to move it to the bedroom. It's getting late. I got work the next day. So laying in bed, and like you said, a little bit of a slow game. Of course, by this point, at the start of the second half, it was kind of starting to get a little bit more exciting. But I was still like, it's been a little bit of a slower game. It's probably more of a bedroom situation. Can go ahead and start winding down for the evening. And yeah, they called their two timeouts on this drive in the
Yep.
fourth quarter. Um, and for both of these fourth down plays, these two huge fourth down plays, hadn't gone for it on fourth down all college football playoff. Hadn't really been forced to need to
Yeah.
go for it on fourth down. Um, but they made their right calls. They made the best calls. But yeah, I mean, you sit there, Mendoza drops back and he takes off, and I just pop up right away as he gets through the first little lane. And yeah, for that dive, I just went crazy. Lacey watching with me, she was impressed. She was like, "Wow, that was a crazy play." I mean, it was impressive, and just to put it on the line to go out there and be willing to die for your teammates and die for the national championship. Um, it was awesome to see that kind of effort. And like if this is the last play I play in my life, I'm gonna make sure I'm in the end zone. And that's what he did when he dove in. You don't see quarterbacks do that unless it's my scrambling quarterback in dynasties on NCAA 26 because I always dive for the goal line. But yes, this was an awesome play where you could tell just how much it meant to this team. But you talked about that Mark Fletcher touchdown, and that felt like kind of a swing in this second half. Me and you had been messaging back and forth throughout the game, and that seemed like a big swing. But uh, to talk about Miami here and kind of what they were capable of doing, and it was an awesome effort and an awesome challenge. I'll say this much: they proved a lot of people wrong. They proved me wrong. I did talk some crap about this team. I didn't necessarily think they were the most deserving uh, team, and I do still stand by that. I don't think what happened in the regular season is a fair representation of this team. I agree with that. I think in this college football playoff, we saw the version of this team we expected. But again, like we just talked about, we play the games for a reason, and games have to have a little bit more value. Um, but for Miami, this was an impressive run to shut people up. Uh, but in this game, you got the Carson Beck experience, and this is kind of what it's been always been about for Carson Beck. I know me and you talked at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and you were like, "This is going to probably come down to what can Carson Beck do in this game." And then Malachi Tony has the field goal, the fair catch inside of the 10 and the blocked punt because of that as we're talking about it. And so I sent you the video and I was like, I was going to go on this whole thing about where it probably does come down to what Carson Beck does. I was like, but Malachi Tony's decision may have just
Yeah.
cost Miami this game. Of course, they did challenge back and give him a great effort. And again, hats off to him for it. But you got the Carson Beck experience. And I think everybody's been watching Carson Beck this entire season, this entire postseason. You were waiting for it to
Yep.
happen in
Hmm.
the biggest moments for this team. It's not that he can't be trusted with the ball in his hands, but eventually, this is what I talked about in the Ole Miss game. Why was the rushing touchdown so impressive? Because usually Carson Beck, he's not a fight till the next down kind of guy. He's not a take a little bit and get a big gain on the next play. If he wants the big play, he takes it. And so when he pulled it down in the Ole Miss game and he took it into the end zone, I was like, wow, he didn't force it in. He didn't try to make the crazy play. He saw another way and he made the play happen. But that's what we saw at the end of this game, putting together a good drive, but thought he could get it all. And honestly, I I don't know what he saw on this
Me
play.
either.
Safety help over the top, corner underneath. And the ball, if the corner underneath catches it, you have not put enough air
Mm-mm.
on the ball, is what I think. If a guy's, got a step on him, again, by design for the corner, he knows he has help over the top, so he can get a step behind. But if he's a step behind and he's the guy pulling it down, it's just not the best ball. And so I'm going to stick up for Carson Beck, though. I haven't done that all season. You see Miami fans giving him the blame for this. And look, he made the play. But look, you live and die by Carson Beck. This is what
Yep.
it is. And he's done so much for you this season. He was such an upgrade over Emory Williams. No offense. But he was the
Yep.
upgrade over Emory Williams that they sought in the transfer portal. And he did a lot of good for them. I know he throws the national championship losing interception, but he did so much for this team. He elevated this team. Cam Ward was great. I think Cam Ward was better at Miami, but he did more for the program's success as a whole than Cam Ward was able to do. I think that deserves some credit. If the guy's biggest crime is that he tried to make the game-winning play in the national championship, I think that serves pretty well. If you were in the national championship with a chance to win the game, I think he deserves a little bit of defending and a little bit of respect. Also saw people kind of shaming the leaving the field early. I get it. You normally want him to see him shake hands, but
Right.
come on, the guy just made the most heartbreaking play of his college football career, his 7-year college football career. You know, this was his chance. I believe. I don't think he won a national championship as a starter at
Yeah, he
Georgia. He
won
was
two as the
backup.
backup. Two as the backup at Georgia.
It was the backup. So this was an opportunity to get that one, the one he actually gets to play in, the one he actually gets to wear with this badge of honor. And he comes up that short, and it's his mistake. I get going to the locker room and being upset. That's a lot going on in the moment. I'm going to stand up for Carson Beck. I haven't done it all year, which was why I think it makes it so noble of me to stand up here and defend you now, Carson Beck.
That's fair. That's fair. And I think I saw the wide receiver say after the game. He said he also did just lost the ball. So
Yeah.
not only was Carson trying to force it there, receiver had no idea where the ball was.
And
So yeah,
again, you can kind of tell in the play, he's kind of like, he's
right.
trying to track it and find it. Um, but yeah, it's just you're trying to make a play to win the game. Um, I get it, it's an interception and it's a tough way to lose the game. But I'm going to stand up for Carson Beck. He's trying to win the game. He didn't by any means, it's not by any means just on his shoulders, even though it's just this one, grand example of it.
Right.
Game was obviously more than just one interception. Again, you can do this with any football game. Point to 4th and 5. If somebody can just wrap up Mendoza,
Yep.
they don't get that touchdown. So, um, let's cut Carson Beck some slack.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. And again, it was a great game. Both teams played great, just great heroics, just back and forth on both sides. Let me just say for Miami, for those who were wondering about this, that Miami pass rush is 100% for real. Whoever gets Ruben Bain in the top five of this draft, congrats on a generational pass rusher. I mean, and I swear, the thing that bothers me, Austin, with all the scouting, they're like, look at him like, like Devontae Smith, they're like, oh, he's so skinny, a stiff wind can blow. It's like Ruben Bain, oh, his hands are too short. It's like, are you not watching the same game that we're watching?
Yeah.
Like, I could give two craps if he's skinny or if his hands are short. If he is dominating, I want dominating players on my team.
Hey, go back and watch that Notre Dame game and tell me if the small hands had any effect on whether he, intercepted a pass from CJ Carr in that game. Not only is he a fierce pass rusher, but he's aware, he's got active hands, and he forces turnovers. So yeah, Ruben Bain's going to be awesome. If I'm Tennessee, you're kind of set with some of the pieces you like on offense. I'm picking up near the top of this draft. I might be
Woo!
looking at Ruben Bain to put a look at CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. Of course, CJ Stroud, maybe not the best example to talk about, as we'll talk about here in just a second.
Right, yeah.
But look at some of these, good quarterback and then good defensive leader pairings. Look at what Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart kind of were at the end of the season for the Giants here. You get some of these pairings, like you could get with Cam Ward and Ruben Bain. And guess what? These guys played college football together last
Yep.
year, so a little bit of chemistry for them as well. If I'm Tennessee, this is a guy on the top of my list. You need a lot of help on that defense. Ruben Bain would
Hmm.
make you, an infinitely better team.
Yeah, especially with the coaching hire they made, which we'll dive into in a little bit. It makes a lot of sense to go with Ruben Bain. It makes a lot of sense.
I
But
would.
yeah, I was about to say, I tell you what, if I'm doing a Titans franchise, I know who I'm picking, but that's just me.
Uh,
But let's dive into this factor, Ross. Let's just talk about it from this factor. Indiana. The Indiana Hoosiers are a national champion in college football. The way Kirk Signay said it in his post-game interview, he's like, "We just won a national championship in Indiana. It can be done." And in other words, I think he was sending a message to the rest of the team, the Power Four teams in Division One, where you have GMs. I'm not going to name names, but GMs who come out and say, we're not built to win a national championship. Could be any GM, but I mean, this winning this national championship for them, I mean, could put in the respective all Power Four teams and all their fan base should be like, why the heck can't we do that? Like that's the mentality here, and I'm sure you could agree that like, why can't any of us go and do what Indiana did? They did that in 2 years.
Indiana showed us that it can be done. Look, it's just like that. The dynasties that you do in college football 25 and 26, they can be done in real life. This one was just done. We've seen the recipe for it. We've seen what it takes. We've seen, with the right coach, the right pieces, and the right support,
Mm-hmm.
anything can happen in college football. Look, I think certain universities should be revisiting certain athletic directors' comments at a certain Little Rock touchdown club,
Yeah, immediately.
and think about job security for that individual potentially. Because yes, I agree. Kurt Signetti said it. It can be done. It can be done anywhere. It should especially be thought to be done at an SEC program. You have that alleged leg up, as Greg Sankey keeps talking about.
Yep.
He wants to keep saying the SEC is the premier league in college football. Well, they haven't put a team in the championship in a minute.
Mm-mm.
They haven't had a
Nope.
champion in a minute.
No.
The last time,
It was
what's the last
Georgia.
time?
Georgia was the last one, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
Georgia was the last one against TCU. I mean, the last 3 years, not only has the Big Ten won the national championship, it's been 3 straight years of a Big Ten versus a non-SEC opponent. So, like, it's been 3 years since we've seen an SEC team in the title game.
yeah. Pac-12, independent, ACC. And independent plays an ACC schedule, so like
Right.
all ACC adjacent for Notre Dame. They're ACC and everything else. For the SEC's sake, they're not an SEC school.
Right.
So yeah, this is, I think, a huge ordeal. One, I think this is a huge problem for the SEC because right now SEC and Big Ten are kind of in, a battle about
Mm-hmm.
the way the college football playoff set
Yep.
up because the SEC is petitioning for a bunch of automatic bids. And the Big Ten is like, we've won 3 national championships in a row, and we don't even think we should get a bunch of automatic bids. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the battle right now. And right now, if I'm everybody else, I'm siding with the Big Ten. One, not only because that gives you a chance to have more teams in the college football playoff,
Right.
but two, because the Big Ten's right.
Yeah.
Um, the SEC thinks they're the powerhouse. And look, they've got great programs, they've got great teams. But either these teams are banging each other up so much in the regular season that
Mm-hmm.
it's affecting their playoff play, or really the talent pool is not as deep as advertised
Mm-hmm.
because they haven't gotten to the national championship in several years. Um, Ole Miss gave a great effort this year, but they haven't got there. They haven't had a winner in a minute. Uh, it's time to say with this new transfer portal, this new NIL era, the SEC's run of dominance is not, I won't say over, but
Mm-hmm.
we've seen the impact. We've seen the difference
Right.
it makes. It's a much more fair ball game, and the SEC needs to stop acting like they're the top dog out there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, they it needs to stop. And again, you wonder why, ever since we saw NIL and transfer portal increase, the SEC has gone from here to all the way down to about even with some of the other Power Four teams. So
It's
again,
just
it's time to stop acting like you are this much better than everyone. Nowadays, pardon it, nobody gives a crap about SEC and just
yeah,
selling, hey, we're in the SEC, that's why you should come play for us. That doesn't work anymore. That's not going to work.
yeah. It doesn't. And look, we talk about it. My dad called me last night, wanted to talk a little bit about Duke's whole issue situation, which is something we'll get into in a little bit of time once everything gets kind of settled down a little
Right.
bit, and we kind of see more from it because
Yeah.
we'll see exactly where this goes because it could be really a historic
Uh,
case for
yeah.
the transfer portal and NIL, whatever ends up happening with it. Uh, but and I kind of told him this. I was like, you look at why Nick Saban got out of it. You look at why the SEC is not the same as they were.
Hmm.
It's because everybody's allowed to pay players now. I know Nick Saban doesn't admit to it, but come on, we all know
Right.
Guys come to the University of Alabama and all of a sudden they're driving, a Mercedes Benz, or, they're driving a Ferrari or
Mhm.
whatever. That's not coincidental. So I get it. You're right. They're not just, hey, we're the top dogs, look at what we do. And then also it's like they're not the only people that can offer you $1 million to
Right.
come play football for them anymore. Everybody's allowed to do it. It levels the playing field. You got to go out a lot more on the football field and show it.
Yeah, you absolutely have to. But again, congrats to Indiana. Again, the greatest turnaround, at least I've seen, not just in college, but maybe in the history of college sports. I mean, it's hard for me to find. I really can't think of any other that top this. I mean, can you? I really can't think of any.
No, it's one of the most unlikely stories to not only win a championship. It's not like this team is like an Eli Manning like wild card team that kind of almost limps into the playoffs and then they go out and they defeat the incredible undefeated Patriots. This is like a team that wasn't really supposed to be this good, and they just won, and they were proven that they didn't lose a game. I can't think of another team that was this kind of underdog all season, but also time and time again rang the bell, won the
Mhm.
game, made the big statement, and was still doubted. I'm with you. I can't think of another story that checks all those boxes. A team so underrated yet so dominant, so underappreciated, but the biggest, most proven, again, the most proven team in college football this season.
Mhm. Absolutely. And they are national champions because of it. But great season for them. And ladies and gentlemen, like I hinted at, we're not done with college football yet. Stay tuned for what we got next. But let's dive into the NFL. NFL divisional round was underway this weekend, and we got some interesting ball games and then some interesting stuff that has come out since those ball games to dive into here. Let's dive into the first game on Saturday. Broncos defeating the Bills 33 to 30 in overtime. Shoot, there's a million different storylines we can talk about for this game, but let's just focus on the game first and what happened within the game. Um, just really a sloppy game. And, rarely do I ever, and me and you can attest to this, we rarely walk out of a playoff game with the Bills and go, man, Josh Allen could have played a lot better. Like in recent years, we sit there and be like, man, Josh did all he could do. I mean, he was perfect. He didn't make mistakes. He made mistakes in this game. I mean, let's just say it like it is. It wasn't a perfect game for Josh
I
Allen.
agree.
Wasn't a perfect game for this offense. And even with all that, they still had their chances in this game. Got it to overtime. Obviously, the questionable play in the overtime. Then you have the pass interference that gets the Broncos in field goal range to win it 33 to 30. Obviously, we're going to talk more about the Broncos and the situation here in just a second. But I mean, let's focus on the Bills here. Yet another playoff heartbreak.
Yeah, this is kind of gutting. Like you said, Josh Allen could have played better. Um, but I don't know. It's hard not to think about what happened in overtime, in this one. But yeah, this was a lot of mistakes. This is what the Broncos defense does. This is what they do. They take your best player, and they make him make mistakes. They make him make tough plays, and that's what got him through here to win this game. So hats off to the Denver Broncos, with an awesome game. But this was a gut punch. I'll just say I was not happy watching overtime in this game, as you can imagine. As a Josh Allen fan, this was brutal for me.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, let's address it like it is. The play we're referring to, a deep pass down the field by Josh Allen. It looks like Brandon Cooks has it, and then all of a sudden, as he rolls over, it ends in the hand of a Denver Bronco. And the officials just the crazy thing to me is, look, the calls fit. It could have gone either way, which was fine by me, whatever. But the fact that they just quickly moved on and just went like as if that was like completely normal. That like blew my mind. Like, how do you not stop and at least review that and at least take a look at that? I mean, that's the part that truly blew my mind about this.
I hate a 15-minute overtime period in the playoffs and coaches don't have a challenge.
Yeah.
I think that that's really stupid. Um, I'm with you. I don't know why nobody stopped and took a look at this. Look, I'm just gonna say this, and I'm gonna be frank. If a guy has a football in his hands and he's laying down on the ground, is that not down? It's just this is a monumental play to me. He's down on his back, and then the ball's ripped out of his hands. So if a guy catches the ball in the end zone, if I rip the ball out of his hands or knock it out of his hands, does that mean it's incomplete, even though he's caught the ball in the end zone? Look, and I think the thing that goes to make matters worse, we'll talk about it in a minute. Less than 24 hours later, Bears Rams, we see the same exact thing
Yeah.
happen, called in exactly reverse. I'll say this. I don't think it was an interception in the Bears game. I know that may be a surprise as a Bears fan. I didn't think it was an interception. I think that play should be called a catch. I think if two guys catch the ball and the receiver goes down, dual possession goes to the offensive player.
I was
That's
about to
what I've
say, I'm
always,
pretty sure that's literally a rule. If they're both
that's what
fighting
I've
for
always
it, it
heard.
goes to the offensive player.
Dual possession goes to the offensive player. So once the offensive player is down, the play is over. I think the call was made correctly in the Bears game. Now, where I was peeved at in the Bears game is that less than 24 hours ago, the NFL makes this landslide call in the Bills Broncos game, a deciding call. Like Sean McDermott said in his post-game interview, we could have run out the kicker and kicked the game-winning field goal had that been a catch. They could have. They were well inside field goal range.
Yep.
If they wanted to, they could have walked the game off after that.
All right, yeah.
But to make that call and to stand by and to not even review it, like you said, like it was a normal, everyday play, like that is textbook written in the rules. That's an interception. That's how it's done. To less than 24 hours. Again, no discussion, no nothing after making this big statement to do the exact opposite. Inconsistency in NFL officiating has been the biggest issue. We see it with the pass interference. We see it with how strict and how loose games are called.
Yep.
To make, again, for the NFL to come out and be like, this is the right call, don't question us, and then do the exact opposite. Again, I think they're both catches. I think they should have both been called catches. Again, I've always heard dual possession to the offense. I just don't know how you can die on that sword. Our officials are always right. I am never wrong. Roger Goodell. And then immediately flip-flop it in another game. Don't think it should have benefited the Bears. Don't think it cost the Bears. The Bears made plenty of their own mistakes. So we'll talk about that as well. But I just wanted to say this is the thing that people are always on about the officiating. And I feel like every year we talk about this in the postseason about the consistency. I think congrats to the Broncos. Josh Allen again made a lot of big mistakes. This was a crazy sequence that I don't know. Whether you think the call's right or wrong, I don't think matters. The lack of consistency and the not, hey, we need to check in on this is crazy to me.
I mean, that's the part that drove me crazy because, in all honesty, the way I saw it, it looked like once he didn't have 100% control to me, and that's when he pulled it away. I was like, but again, like I said, the crazy part to me is they just move on with it. Like they don't even like say, hey, should we take a look at this? It looked like it was kind of close there. They're like, nope, Broncos ball, first down. I'm like, that is crazy that they did not do that. And like I said, that Bears Rams game, basically 24 hours later, I'm like, oh, Buffalo Twitter's gonna have a field day with this one. Like
the NFL puts themselves in the biggest pickle of all time because we just don't have. Again, we don't have consistency, and even if you think the plays are different, I know Joe Burrow came out and said that they're different plays. Again, everybody, I'm not going to shame anybody for their opinion. Like you said, you think maybe it might have been more an interception. I think it's more of a catch. Personally, I think he's got it. His back hits the ground, and then the ball's ripped out of his hands. But no matter how you look at it, I think we can all say, we either need to be more transparent or we need to be more consistent with our. And I think we need to be both.
Yeah.
If we want the best product, we need consistency and we need more honesty from our. And look, if it's a case of, I know people get peeved about it, and I know people don't want to come out and admit they're wrong. But even a simple, I messed up,
right,
would go a long way to me. That's that transparency I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Hey, this is what we saw on the field. This is why we didn't review it. But after going back and looking at the rules and being able to look at the play more and more times, maybe we made a mistake.
Right.
Or even be like, I just need something because it's just this lack of and like the NBA does their 2-minute report, and that was supposed to be transparent, but they don't explain why calls were made. Like they'll be like, "Oh, this call should have been made," but nothing happens because
No.
of that, and nobody has to come out and answer those questions. I've said this for a long time. I think uh, I'm not saying guys should be fired, but I think officials should be held more accountable for the decisions they made.
Right.
Some of the decisions that are made, especially in these huge games
Hmm.
that have huge consequences, when the wrong decision is made, which again, I'm not going to say that the wrong or right decision was made in this game, but let's talk about the Kamara PI
Hmm.
incident.
Hmm.
I mean, come on. Nobody's held responsible for that. And
No.
that was a massive issue for the
Yeah.
NFL.
Yeah.
So I think the better team in this game won. I don't want to come out here and make a bunch of excuses. Buffalo had their opportunities and
Right.
they didn't take advantage of them. I think the team that played better in this game came out on top. But I feel like I
Right.
say this every year. We've got to be better.
I was about to say, and again, I feel like it's every year, and I don't want to bring it up, but it feels like every year since 2018 with the Jesse James game, we're asking, what the heck is a catch? Like, I feel like we have been
Agreed.
asking that question every single year. Mike said, to me, we make the players sit up in front of press conferences and coaches after their mistakes. Why don't we have
Agreed.
officials sit up in front of a
Agreed.
bunch of media and cameras and be like, why did you make that call? To the cameras. Like, I never see any of that. I'm like, how much is it going to take? I'm like, if they want to be that big of a part of the game, they should have to answer just as much for the stuff they did as much as players and coaches do whenever they screw up. I mean, that just seems like fair to me. Like you talked about with transparency, that seems as fair as it can get.
Yeah. Again, this is something we've talked about. I think we've had the same conversation for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And so for those of you who've been listening for a long time, maybe you're tired of it. Maybe you agree with us. I just think I'm with you. The even just having to face the media, maybe they don't have to be punished, but to come out to the media and explain the decision you made and why you made it. Um, I think that would go a long way. The transparency, we'd understand what's going on. Because I mean, these guys just get to make the call and then they go home.
Right. Right.
That's it. Like, you're right. If you want to make the big call, you want to be in the big moments, you want to be a big part of the final game, whether you're right or you're wrong, you want to make calls that decide games. You need to go out there and defend them. Just like Josh Allen has to come out and defend his decision. Just like Mario Cristobal has to come out and defend his team, for taking the big shots at the end of the game. Just like Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson had to come out and answer their questions about how that game ended on Sunday night. These officials need to come out and say, this is why I made this call in this big spot.
Right.
This is why I felt it needed to be made. Whether you're right or you're wrong, I think that'd go a long way and at least make us feel a little bit better about why the calls we're seeing are made.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But let's talk about like it is. Game's over. Denver wins on a walk-off field goal. We're all like, man, can't believe Denver's one game from the Super Bowl. Everything's going great for them. And then the report came out about 15, 20 minutes after the game ended. Bo Nix on the I think second to last or third to last play of overtime suffered a broken bone in his ankle. He is now going to have surgery. I think he had surgery yesterday. If I remember, Sean Payton said he was going to have surgery on Tuesday, and he is going to be out the remainder of this playoffs. And who knows how long the recovery is going to be come into the next season. But I mean, this is just about as big of a blow as you could have. You just won at home. You're the one seed. You're going to have home game for the AFC Championship. You're feeling good, and to have that happen, I mean, like I said, David is like I said, the other show we talked about, I do with David. He's a Broncos fan. I mean, he went from on top of the world to absolutely devastated in the span of 10 minutes.
Yeah. Look, and I'll just say it like this. This is how you know the NFL's not rigged. Because again, if you think it's a bad call, it's just a bad call. It's not because the NFL has ulterior motives. Because I promise you, they would not have rigged that overtime interception call if they had any part in knowing what was going to happen to Bo Nix. Yeah, it's a shame. it's a bummer what happened. I'll say this. As we talk, we'll talk a little bit more about their game this coming weekend.
Hmm.
I don't know what they'll win, but I don't think they won't be able to give a fight. I
No.
don't know that Stidham can do what Knicks did, but with what this defense has done all season long and all postseason, it's not going to be a cakewalk for New England. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, I was about to say, I guarantee it won't be. Plus, Sean Payton has a full week to get them prepped. Listen, I may not be the biggest fan of Sean Payton's character, but if there's someone I have confidence in getting the quarterback ready for a good scheme, it's Sean Payton. But the other game on Saturday, not as much controversy in this one. This was just, as I said last week, BTA Seattle beating San Francisco 41-6. I mean, just from the jump with the opening kickoff, it was complete and utter domination for the Seahawks.
This was rigged. This was bad officiating at its finest. This was just no, obviously, like you said, BTA. This was not close, no controversy whatsoever. Um, this was just a beatdown. The Seahawks came out and played well. And look, here's the big question. Oh, Sam Darnold, your arm doesn't work that well. What's going to happen? Oh, Zach Charbonnet's hurt. Kenneth Walker's going to have to carry the load. Dude, this is what makes me so mad about this offense is Zach Charbonnet should never have to be on the field. We
Yeah,
saw that. And it's nothing against Zach Charbonnet because clearly he's talented.
right.
He puts up big numbers also. But Kenneth Walker, 19 carries for 116 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's ridiculous. That like the Seahawks last 2 years have acted like Kenneth Walker's like damaged goods or something.
Right,
He had
right.
this great start to his career, and then all of a sudden McDonald takes over and he's getting less carries. This game, they're forced to keep the ball in his hands when they want to run the football, and he just dominates. This is how great Kenneth Walker is. How great this team is. This was scary. A week off, a 49ers team that's been in a pretty good groove for the most part, but they finally look. This is kind of what I didn't think it was going to be a blowout.
Right.
But this is kind of what I thought was happening. I thought they had reached, George Kittle was like that final straw to break the camel's back. It was eventually just going to be too much, and they weren't going to be able to keep up. I did have Seattle -7.5, just in case you're curious.
Yes, you did. You did. Totally random. Shout out. I love that I had the under 47.5 for the national championship, and it was 10-0 at halftime. And
Yeah.
somehow we ended at 48 points. I'm not gonna lie. It was a great game, but I was a little butthurt that I lost that by half a point. I'm not gonna
Also, Miami covered the spread +7.5. I
they
was all
did.
over it this week.
You might have, honestly, with how close it's been with us, that might have been the difference between you winning or losing
Yeah.
the bets and the game pick totals and everything. I'm going to calculate that all for that next college football episode, so we're going to find out for sure on that. But just pure domination again from the kickoff, from the opening kickoff of Rashid Shaheed and Mexican Sandro didn't have to really throw it that much because he didn't have to because this game was over. And like I said, again, it was early on. You could just tell it's like, oh, this is going to get ugly. Like you could just tell early on from the jump. And I don't think we really need to waste more time here. Seattle dominates. Niners, great season. Get healthy. For the love of everything, please get healthy. That's all I need to say. Get healthy.
It's the 5G. They've got to move their practice stadium. It's the 5. Have you seen this going around?
No, I have not. I
They
don't know.
had some kind of like power plant type. It's not exactly a power plant, but it gives off, it emits these waves that like help with internet and all this stuff
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
And apparently there's been studies
Study.
that these being close to these waves and close proximity to these waves uh can lead to bodily injury, allegedly. And there's one that's built literally there. Here's the practice stadium. Here's the building right next to it that is like one of these plants that emits these waves. And so people are like, oh my, and so like people are petitioning the NFL, like they have to move. This is dangerous. This is why they've had all their injuries. I watched several doctors on the internet this past weekend be like, sure, there is some science that says like very high exposure to these could cause bodily harm. but it takes like this giant number of exposure for
Right.
this giant amount of time. And he's like, that's if you're right next to the thing that's producing the waste. He's like, you got to think these buildings are next to each other, but there's walls between the buildings. And
Yes.
in the building
Yeah.
where the plant's producing this stuff, it's all underground. So you're talking about like way like over like 20 feet underground is kind of what he was making it sound like. And
Interesting.
so like no, they're not. They're getting like maybe 1% of exposure
Right.
to these
Right.
things, and they need like 5,000% more exposure for there to be any risk of injury. So it's just a conspiracy theory that's gone off the rails. But I was curious if
No,
you had seen that
no, I had
because it was
not.
all over. At least it was all over my Twitter and whatnot. After a bunch of these injuries they sustained.
I was about to say, no, I have ironically been on Buffalo Bills Twitter since about Monday for obvious reasons that we'll talk about in a second. That has been intriguing. I can't lie. That has been intriguing to watch. But let's dive into the games on Sunday. The first one, Patriots versus Texans. Both teams entering this game knowing about the Bo Nix injury a lot. They probably both feel, hey, like this is a good chance for us to make our run. And I guess everyone knew that except for CJ Stroud in this game. I'm not even going to be frank. It was not a good game for CJ Stroud. It was a rough game. He was forcing some passes, even ones where it wasn't his fault, it ended up getting tipped and intercepted. It was rough, but somehow, man, this Texans defense did everything it could to give them chances still to win this football game. Will Anderson, he needs the talk that Jaguars reporter gave Liam Cohen after the because like I mean you had a great year and this is not your fault. And ultimately the Patriots able to pull away with a touchdown by Keishon Butte. What a catch that was! That was an awesome catch in the snow. But the Patriots once again, Austin, are back in the AFC Championship. Let's talk about the winner first, and we can dive into it with the Texans. But Patriots and Mike Vrabel in year one are now one win away from the Super Bowl.
Awesome one for Vrabel. Look, Tennessee. It's a sad franchise. Hopefully, head in the right direction. We'll talk
Hopefully.
about that a little bit later. But yeah, this was awesome to see for Vrabel. It's kind of like an in your face moment here to me. But look, still some struggles in this game, and this is what I was
Mhm.
talking about. They played a good defense, probably the best defense in the NFL. They're going to play probably the second best defense in the NFL
Mhm.
next week. This is why I think this game could be close. If Jared Stidham can execute it all, or he can just avoid throwing 4 interceptions,
Yeah.
I think the Broncos can, at least put up a fight
Yeah.
in this game. But look, Drake May did have his struggles at times, but like you talked about on that last drive where he ended up throwing the game-winning touchdown, he kind of locked in and made a lot of big plays that he just hadn't been able to make in this weather and against this defense all game. So yeah, this was an awesome performance by the Patriots. And I've seen a lot of people saying it, and what was supposed to be a rebuilding year, kind of getting your feet under you with the new coach and the second year quarterback. They've definitely exceeded expectations.
Just a slight bit exceed expectations. But look, let's address it like it is. The Texans loss. This felt like one of their best chances with how good this defense has been playing. It felt like it was going to give them a chance, but they just could not overcome the turnovers from CJ Stroud. And, you know, I thought about it from, I was sitting there listening into the game, and Troy Aikman brought it up. He's like, listen, uh, CJ Stroud's been chasing that rookie success the last 2 years, and it has not been the same for him. And listen, I'm not saying that it's time to look to trade him, but I mean this is something that clearly is holding this team back from what it was this year. This needs to be addressed in some sort of form or fashion. Was ultimately what he was saying that talking about we haven't seen that development from him, and that needs to be addressed. And I think it really does because you know we talked about Austin like a year or two ago. It was his rookie year happened, one of the best rookie years ever, and we're thinking sky's the limit. But then the last couple of years, it feels like it's slowly fallen off while this defense has gotten better and better. And you know, I thought about the Dan Campbell quote from the when they lost to the Niners in the NFC Championship, saying, this might have been our best shot. And you can't help but think about that if you're a Texans fan with this level of defense, saying this might have been our best shot.
Yeah. Um, here's the big thing that I want to say about it is I'm not necessarily going to put words in Troy Aikman's mouth and say what he was alluding to, but this is what I thought of when he was talking about, the last 2 years just haven't been there. Like you said, I this quote stuck out to me too. And somebody's got to look into that. Something's got to be done about that. And what I think of, what's been the difference between that team in his rookie year and then what's happened the last 2 years? And I think about that offensive line, and we've talked about it a lot the
Yeah.
last two off seasons. I'm not saying that CJ Stroud would just be a NFL MVP, but seriously, the offensive lines last year was a step down from his rookie year, and this year was a major step down. Getting rid of Remy Tunzel, I think all but one
Pretty
of them,
much them all except for one guy, I believe, except for
yeah,
one.
were gone. And they traded another young guy too.
Yep.
Uh, Green, what's his first
Kenyon
name? I
Green.
can't even.
Kenyon Green.
Kenyon Green. Kenyon Green and Tunzel are traded. They don't bring back two others. They just have one guy left from last year's starting offensive line. I and look, pressure was a huge factor. Two of those picks were
Uh-huh.
thrown off his back foot. Um, I'm not saying CJ Stroud isn't slightly responsible for decisions made in this game and for a lack of development, but also giving him a worse offensive line every year of his NFL career. Uh, I don't think that's helping him either. So that's what I would look at least partially if I was Houston. You messed around, you tried to build a different offensive line, but now it's time to get a little bit serious and protect your quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's time. I'm very intrigued to see what they do in the offseason. There are some people that think they could look to trade Stroud, which if they do, my question is, are you really going to find a better option this year? Like, do you see the market? There really isn't a
I
lot of
agree.
better options out there than Stroud. So, like, it's not like you can just go and upgrade this.
Yeah. And
But
and what
yeah,
they don't have any like top picks
no.
unless you trade him for a top pick. But after seeing what you just saw out of CJ Stroud, are you willing to surrender the number one, even the number two pick, maybe confident in going out and getting a guy like Ty Simpson? Would you rather take a chance on Ty Simpson? And if he doesn't work out this first year and you really want to bail on him, you'll probably be picking at the top of the draft next year, which could end up being a kind of loaded quarterback class with the way
Mhm.
some guys started to look. Um, or, are you willing to gamble on CJ Stroud and say that it's entirely Houston's problem and he'd be completely different with you? Yeah, like you said, there's just not a lot of room to upgrade, and Stroud's value is not exactly at an all-time high right now.
No, it is not. So we'll see what the Texans do this offseason. And then the final game from Wild Card Weekend, Rams beating the Bears 20-17. I know this was a heartbreaker for you. It was a much more low scoring than I expected going into the matchup. Shout out me for taking the over, and as soon as the first quarter ended, going that was a huge mistake.
Yes.
But a close game throughout, low scoring game. Rams took the lead late, and my gosh, the freaking play from Caleb Williams on that fourth down. Listen, I know they lost the game, but that is still one of the best plays I have ever seen here. But nonetheless, Rams get
Look,
the interception in overtime, then win with the walk-off field goal. I'll shut my mouth. But Austin, your thoughts on what was the best season we've seen for the Chicago Bears, really about since 2010?
yeah, this was awesome for me. This was a dream come true. Even now, look, we've talked about it all season. You talked about how happy I've been even in defeats, and I'm going to stay like that in this game. I was even with the way this game ended. I wasn't mad. I wasn't upset, and I wasn't angry. I was like, we this to me it felt like this is not it. This is just the beginning for this group. It was a great season. It was an awesome game. So I'm ecstatic. We played our butts off, and I think the thing that I felt the best about was like I said it to Lacey. I was like, I'm not mad because they're not better than us. They just weren't. They weren't better than us. Was messaging longtime listener Ethan Rocker during the game also.
Mhm.
And he was like, I know this game is tied, but it feels like the Bears are winning. And it did. They were controlling
Mhm.
the game a lot of points. I know they got down early at certain points, but they made a lot of big plays. They were in control. The fans were there. It was awesome to see Soldier Field in December, packed out full of stands, and how loud Soldier Field was. And then I message you. You message me after this huge play Caleb Williams makes on fourth down. Look, I'm standing up in my living room, 4th and 4, and I'm like, season on the line right here. I was like, but I wouldn't want it in literally anybody else's hands. And he's running backwards, and I'm like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And he fires it, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's hindsight bias now, but I swear I felt this in a moment. The ball comes off of his hands, and it just looks so pretty. And I'm just like, that's going to find somebody. I was like, I don't know who. And then to just see Cole Kmet busting it to the back corner of the end zone, wide open. And look, you messaged me and you were like, "What a play!" And I was just like, I was determined I was going to say this on the podcast. I'm so done being humble. I've been humble all year long. No one, literally no, not even Patrick Mahomes, and I stand by this, makes that play.
Mhm.
The it's not just the athleticism or the arm strength. It's the it's the nerve. It's the nerve to make that decision. To say I'm gonna run backwards 20 yards. And he said it. He says it so calm. He says, I knew Cole was bigger. He had the one-on-one. I knew he was gonna catch it. It's just the confidence. Even in that moment, with all the odds stacked against him, he's just so cool. He's so calm. He's so collected. Look, you think of guys like Matthew Stafford. You think of guys like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, even that have this composure at the end of the game to do what they need to do. It's unbelievable the throw that he makes. And look, the two. This is the thing. The complaints about the turnovers, the complaints about the completion percentage. We're in every game. If Caleb Williams doesn't take chances, he doesn't take gambles, we don't go to overtime. You live with the decisions he makes because when he hits so well. And this
Yep.
team, this defense, never lets the game get out of hand.
No,
We always have a chance, and they always make sure Caleb gets an opportunity.
absolutely.
It was awesome. Look, in overtime, great drive there that we had going. I hate to put this on DJ Moore. This is not a trade DJ Moore. This is not a
Right.
DJ Moore's a bad guy. Why the heck are we walking on
Yeah.
that play? If you
Mm-hmm.
go back and watch the replay,
Mm-hmm.
he's walking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he thought he wasn't going to get the ball. He said, him and Caleb both said in the post-game interview that he was going post. Like it was an in. Caleb thought he was going to flatten it, and he went post. And maybe that happened for a split. Maybe that's what he went to do. But
Right.
when the ball was thrown, he's walking.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he thought he's, but to me, season on the line, you're number one, you're wide receiver number one. You've been a guy Caleb
Mm-hmm.
turns to a lot. Think of, the game winner against the Packers to make those big plays. I don't know how you check yourself out of the play there. I'm not saying it would have been a catch. I'm not
Right.
saying it's still. Cam Curl had to be on the ball. I think it would have been, I think it would have been bang bang, probably incomplete.
Right.
Um, but to give up on it, um, and again, I don't fault Caleb, and I don't even want to come out here and slander DJ Moore. Whatever happened, happened. I knew this Bears team was not going to win the Super Bowl. I honestly, after what happened in Seattle, I was petrified. I didn't even want to see the game because I was worried that they might put a similar hurting on us. This is the better way to go out, in my opinion, a valiant effort. But like I said, it was an awesome season. For the first time, I'm not excited to see what we can do in the draft, and I'm not ready to fire our coach and excited to see, who we can hire. Ben Johnson was awesome. Caleb was awesome. It's let's hit this
Mhm.
free agency. What are we going to do in the draft? Ben Johnson showed in Detroit they were capable drafters.
Mhm.
Him and Poles get together, two really capable drafters. Look at that first class: Luther
Mhm.
Burden, Colson Loveland. Clearly they've made plays. Colson Loveland, arguably better than Tyler Warren was this
Yep.
year, and Tyler Warren, in my opinion, coming into the draft was the better prospect.
Yep.
They kind of know what they're doing. They find the guys that work for them. I'm excited to see what they do in the draft. I'm hoping we can keep Kevin Byard around. Bring Jaquan Brisker back. Man, this playoff was awesome for Jaquan Brisker. I was stoked about that pick. I loved him at Penn State. He's been awesome. He played his butt off. He's unrestricted free agent this year. Poles, you got to get him back. And let's get some help at corner. I like Kyler Gordon. I like Tyreek Stevenson. But Tyreek Stevenson, I don't know if he's got some kind of issue with the coaching staff or what, but I know some of it was like disciplinary, him not starting this
Right.
year. And I know that started even back last year. After the Hail Mary and the celebrating, he went out the next game, had a bad game, mouthed off to the coaching staff, and he got benched for the rest of the year. He was a second stringer for the rest of the year. So if that's a problem, he needs to go. But I like him because he's a great athlete when he's on the field. I like Kyler Gordon. He's a great slot corner, but he's been banged up. We need to get somebody consistent to put across from Jalen Johnson because Jalen Johnson's been locked down. He's been awesome. But we saw kind of Devontae Adams get some big opportunities in this game working against Kyler Gordon. Nashawn Wright's been pretty good. Maybe he can keep on building. But I'd like to see another addition. You know, some teams maybe kind of tearing it down a little. Maybe the Steelers looking for a reset. I could go for Jalen Ramsey across from Jalen
Take him,
Jones.
take him, please. Again, as a Steelers fan, I'm looking for whatever. If we want to blow it up, blow it the frick up. I don't care. If you're gonna blow it up, give rid of everything. But if we're gonna look to compete, I ain't doing the same crap we did last year. Like, if we're gonna compete, let's go all frickin' in. Like, again, as of right now, there is no Steelers head coach hired. Rooting for Chris Shula because at this point, he's the guy that I probably would want as of right now. Seems to be either him, Brian Flores, or Mike McCarthy. And if it's Mike McCarthy, I am not coming on here and saying any words. You won't be able to find me if it's Mike McCarthy that gets hired.
Yeah, I might be running the Bold Take podcast by myself for a little bit until you're ready to come out of hiding.
Like
But
after a month off, Austin is back to
yeah,
talk.
he's back. He's grappled all his feelings. But also, to hit on the Rams here, this was a great game. Matthew Stafford looked awesome. Kyron Williams was really big. I know the numbers don't look huge, but the 2 touchdowns were crucial for this team. That's what they're going to need to help him out. Puka and Devonta Adams were kind of limited again. You look at the 56 yards leading receiver. So even though, they had the big plays when they needed them, the defense did a good job in this one. But the Rams looked good. Matthew Stafford. Look, if I'm an MVP voter, if I haven't already cast my vote, which hopefully they have because the MVP is a regular season award.
Right.
But if I was having to cast my vote after this game, Matthew Stafford looked a little bit better than Drake May did. I know Drake May had the 3 touchdowns,
Right.
but Stafford's throws, I think, were a little bit more consequential for this team's success. But the Rams look good. We'll see if they can challenge the Seahawks. They certainly have the firepower for it. It's going to be a great NFC championship where we get, the rubber match between these teams.
Yeah, we'll dive more into that in a second, but all I can say is yes to that matchup. But let's dive into the coaching carousel, Austin, the never-ending coaching carousel. And we thought we were done with all the firings. We thought we had them all done and all the spots were open. And then out of frickin' nowhere, Monday, the Buffalo Bills are firing Sean McDermott as head coach. And then to go along with that, everyone's kind of like, wow. Not only that, Brandon Beane stays on as GM. And that was the part that had me just losing my mind. Like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me Sean McDermott is the only one that gets fired for this? And then, for those of you who haven't seen it, I highly recommend looking at the press conference that happened today. Have you seen clips from this press conference?
I have seen clips from this press conference. It got me a little bit angry, if I do
Yeah.
say so myself. I was a little bit upset listening to what I was listening to.
Yeah, tough press conference, but basically talking about it, the owner, Pagula, I think is the last name, if I remember, Terry Pagula, was basically saying, hey, well, the reason I fired Sean was because they lost to the Broncos. I'm like, that's why you fired him? That's it? Because he lost? And then you have the whole Keon Coleman drama. And, Brandon Beane's about to speak about it. And Terry Pagula comes in and says, Yeah, Brandon was being a team player. He didn't even want to draft him. You know, it was all the coaching staff that wanted to hire him. And sure enough, 5 minutes after that, I see clips on it Twitter of Brandon being at the NFL Combine talking about, man, Keon Coleman ran a 4.56. That's going to help us be able to get him. He's literally saying that word for word in that. And then talking to it's a wild press conference. I won't say everything. It is a wild press conference. Even with me subbing today, I was looking at everything I could find. I'm like, wow. But look, I'm not going to lie to you. In recent years, I could get the argument for maybe moving on from him for the playoff losses. There were some in other years where it's on him. This one was probably the most not on him loss in the playoffs in his time in Buffalo, and maybe one of his best coaching jobs when you take a look at this roster. But nonetheless, I mean, your thoughts on yet another shocking firing?
Well, I don't know if you saw, but a huge thing came out after this where they're allegedly, from a verified source at ESPN,
Yeah, I think I heard about this.
um, Sean McDermott came in as a trade deadline after some big moves had been made. And he said, we need to make a move. We're not going to compete for a Super Bowl with the way some of these teams are.
Yep.
We need a better team. We need a wide receiver number one. And Bean and Pagula both got visibly upset,
Mm-hmm.
told him off, and told him that they were built, that, he didn't know. Basically, they didn't know anything. It just kind of seems like it was almost like a popularity contest for McDermott. And another thing that bugs me, like you said, he said, this is about the losing to the Broncos. But earlier in the press conference, he talks about, Josh Allen's crying in the locker room. He comes in to talk to him, and he's like, that was a catch. So
Right.
you also agree that your team got screwed, but it's Sean McVay's fault, or Sean McDermott's fault. So you don't think it's his fault. You think it's the official's fault, and you think you should be playing the AFC champion. So you think he did a good enough job to put you in the AFC championship. But since the officials made a bad call, he's losing his job.
Right.
It seems too political for me. This is the problem with sports. When owners look, I want you to know a little bit, but when you hire a coach, I don't know. It's just stupid to me. I love McDermott. He's been a great coach. Like you said, maybe in some years in the past, you maybe hit this kind of playoff wall and you're like, last year, maybe even
Mm-hmm.
with the AFC Championship berth, I get you being like, we just keep getting there, but we keep meeting Kansas City. And, the expectation this year was to meet Kansas City again until,
Yep.
the way the season went. So you're like, oh, that's a point where I would have been like, yeah, McDermott's had what, 3 or 4 cracks at the Chiefs in the playoff and not gotten it done? Sure. But again, this year, to have all
Mm-hmm.
the circumstances that he had, to overcome all of that, and then to, in your own eyes, get screwed by the officials, it doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't have fired him personally anyway. I hate teams that get fed up with success and they say, "Oh, we're getting to the AFC Championship, we're getting to the playoffs, we're being competitive," but it's just not enough.
No.
Okay, go ahead and restart. Now you've killed your chemistry. I mean, look, what if Josh Allen just says, "I don't want to play football here anymore"?
Right.
I don't think that's gonna happen. But look, if guys in the room, in the locker room like him, it just doesn't. To me, this is such a brain dead, out of touch move. This is just, I don't know anything about my own football team, or I don't think before I say anything. Because obviously, again, the contradicting statements just from this one press conference about the circumstances of their loss and what led to McDermott's firing. It's just ridiculous. You hate these kind of classless owners in sports. I know they can't all be winners because they're just a bunch of rich people who think they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And I guess for the most part they can. Um, but look, I've kind of felt like this for a while, and obviously it's something the NFL looked into last year or the offseason before. I wonder if it's something they will still look into. They want to do something about the super high turnover rate of head coaches.
Right.
You talk about how much, I can't remember the stat. We talked about it, whether it was a year or two ago, about the whole ESPN article came out about how much money was owed to coaches that
Right.
weren't coaching
Yeah.
in the NFL at all. They were just sitting on their couch because they'd been fired and they were getting a huge payout.
Right.
And the NFL wants to do something about that. They want longer tenured coaches. They want ownership spending less money and, having more consistent quality products um, on the field. I think it would go along. I don't think necessarily punishing teams for firing coaches, but I could see maybe open a compensation round in the NFL draft
Right,
where,
right, yeah,
hey, if you've had a coach for this many years, you get a compensation pick. Hey, if you sign a coach to a big extension, you get this compensation pick maybe after the fourth round. Something like that. That's like, or I would love to see it like it's like what day one is the first round, and then is
right,
it second, third, and then fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh.
yeah,
So it'd be like, hey, you keep a coach for this many years, you get we'll put a compensation round somewhere in day three. You sign a coach to a big extension, you get a day two compensation pick after round three. We have a compensation round.
yeah,
And it's just like maybe reward teams for keep. I get it'd be hard to punish teams because if a coach isn't working out, whatever,
right, right.
if something's really going wrong. But maybe reward teams where they can think about, hey, if I keep this guy, if this guy hits, his 3 year mark, or maybe he at least makes it to the last year of his contract, and coaches for us, he gets to we get an extra pick. And hey, if we bring him back on a nice, deal, we get another extra pick or whatever. I think that could be an idea because it is, to me, it's problematic. You have this
Mhm.
kind of success, you have this like kind of BS backhanded answer from the ownership that can't really answer to why they fired maybe the best coach in the history of the franchise.
Right,
Um, and I I was about to go on another tangent. I won't.
but
I won't do it. It's shameful, is what I think. And the NFL clearly wants to do something about it, and I think they should because we're having good products, good teams, good coaches thrown out on the curb because
mhm.
ownership gets unhappy with being one of the best teams in or being one of the best teams in the league every single year. Hey, not everybody can win the Super Bowl every year.
Yeah,
That's not how it works.
there's gonna be 31 other teams that are gonna be upset. No matter what, only
Agreed.
31 teams are gonna be upset at the end of the year and just gonna be disappointed that they're not in the Super Bowl. I get there's all the man, this was a great rebuild year. Yeah, no, you can say that, but it's like at the end of the day, if you're not, I'll take the quote, but it's a clean version from Moneyball. You lose the last game of the year, nobody gives a crap. Okay? I mean,
Agreed.
that's just pure and simple what it's down to. Last thing I want to add again, again, if you wanted to fire Sean McDermott, it's fine. But the fact that Brandon Beane got promoted along with it, when in the since Josh Allen's been drafted, he's drafted 56 players. Two of them have been Pro Bowlers. Two. And so again, if you're gonna have and this wide receiver room, the whole fiasco there. Look, I don't know what to say, but only thing I want to say is this: going to be intriguing to see who wants that job, especially after that press conference today. I mean, I don't know how many people are going to look at that and go, "Do I get Josh is there, but do I really want to play under that? Like, do I really
Yeah,
want to?"
I think ownership opens up and your eyes get big and you're like, oh, I could coach Josh Allen. Oh, we could really be a contender in my first year. Like, I don't have to go through any of the lumps. I could jump right away with a top five quarterback to maybe top three quarterback. And we just get at it right away. But now you're thinking, man, if I make a wrong move, I'm being backed. I'm going to have no support from the GM or from the ownership if I feel like I want to go in a different direction because clearly these guys are buddy buddy, so I can't wrong them. Yeah, I agree with you.
I
Who
mean, yeah.
wants that job? Maybe Joe Brady will step up and move up to head coach. I think that's the only way you can appease Josh Allen, if at all, is at least give him somebody he really likes.
To me, it's either him or Brian Dayball. Dayball's one that I think they could consider because he
Yeah,
was the OC
Dayball
before
too.
Joe Brady. So
That's true.
I could see an argument for Dayball getting that job, but
I
we'll see.
think I think it would be so crazy though to fire McDermott for Dable, who was fired in New York. And I liked Dable in New York. I think he did a lot. He just kind of ran out of time.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think that would be. I think that would not win over the fans of very many Buffalo Bill. The win over the hearts of very many Buffalo Bills fans.
No, 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 it would not. But let's move to the next hire that happened that day. Lions have their new OC. And apparently they could have had Mike McDaniel, but they chose to go in a different direction and end up going with Drew Petzing, the former Cardinals offensive coordinator. You look at it, it was a very under center play action heavy scheme, which if you think about it could work for Jared Goff. But, you know, it's look, Arizona, I get that, Jacoby Brissett made the offense look great at points, but I mean, it was not the greatest offensive unit in the world. He's not going to have some of the pieces for the run game he had there. I get you're going to have Jameer Gibbs. I'm told they might be looking to trade David Montgomery, so I don't even know what the backup running back there is. But to me, if you could have had Mike McDaniel, why did you not get Mike McDaniel? I mean, that's just crazy to me.
Look, and to talk about it, you talk about the play action and operating under center. If you want that, why'd you not get Mike McDaniel? You look at that Shanahan, McVay, even
Hmm.
Ben Johnson's offense this year. Very heavy running, very heavy play action. I mean, that's his coaching tree, right? I mean, minus Ben Johnson, his coaching tree, the comes from LaFleur, comes from Shanahan, comes from McVay. He's got that kind of mindset. So yeah, to me, it's like I don't know what you're missing. Like that's his backbone is that heavy run and that play action and that building off the run. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And again, you look at Arizona. Sure, like you said, did Jacoby Brissett throw for some big numbers? Sure, but they also got shellacked by 40 points. So clearly, I don't care how many passing yards Jacoby Brissett had, they were never playing in a close. The offense just wasn't competitive.
No,
Um, yeah, I don't personally. I don't know why you'd want to hire anybody from that Cardinal staff. No offense, in
that's
any
fair.
like
That's fair.
remotely important position on your team. Hey, maybe be a positions coach.
Right, right. Like
I
earn it
don't know
back
that.
up. Like earn it back up. After
Yeah,
that, I
I
mean,
don't know that my reward for the bad Cardinals offense is, hey, come coach my offense that needs a little bit of a little bit of a boost after Ben Johnson left.
yeah, I think that's fair. But one I'll touch on really quick. It's not really one to dive into because he was literally there already. Eric Bieniemy returning to the Chiefs, I think was one that was kind of rumored with obviously the rumors of everyone's favorite Matt Nagy potentially going to the Titans, which we'll dive into in a second. But I mean, real quickly, just wanted to point out Bieniemy's back. Will it help the Chiefs get better? I really don't know, but maybe he learned some stuff from his time in Chicago. That was my main reason for bringing this up. Did he? What are your thoughts on it?
The run game looked good. So as far as running backs coach is concerned, um, I think he's great. I think he did a lot. This staff, honestly, this year for the Bears was awesome. I am like mixed because I want JT Barrett to come back and be the QB's coach again
Right.
this year, but I also think he did such an awesome job and Caleb looked so good this year. I would love for him to get an OC job somewhere. Kind of was hoping that Detroit would bring him back as the OC
Right.
because he has been awesome. But yeah, I stick up for Bieniemy. I'm excited to see him go back with a head coach that trusts him and him back in, an important position. Not that running backs coach is not important, but to be
Hmm.
back in that coordinator position and be helping make the important decisions. And look, I'll say this: I don't have anything against Matt Nagy. He had some good times with us, but he also had some rough times and made some. He was just a really bad timeout manager.
Right. Right. Yeah.
um, his game management wasn't very good. He was a good offensive coach. Like his offense was fun to watch. He just wasn't much of a game manager. I
Right.
wish him the best. I was kind of hoping he could get a second chance somewhere because I feel like in the right system where Ryan Pace isn't building your teams and trading all your draft picks away,
That's fair. That's
he
fair.
might actually be able to build a decent team. He has the Andy Reid experience. Like that's got to be going for him. So I hope he ends up somewhere, honestly.
Yeah, I think so as well. We'll see what ends up, but let's talk about. We had a couple coaching hires really quick. Let's dive into them. First off, Dolphins didn't know where they were going to go. They ended up going with Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley, former Boston College head coach before he went to the Packers as the DC, and now he's in Miami. Um, it's one that I just have mixed feelings about. I'm not saying he's going to be a bad hire or anything. It's just I'm not going to lie. It's a tough situation he's walking into there in Miami.
Look, hats off to him for getting an upgrade. I'll say this much. I think for the most part, this defense looked pretty good this year, but it struggled a lot this year. You look at that Cowboys game,
Hmm.
and look, I'm not just saying, dig the guy just because he's the Packers DC, whatever. But and look at him at the end of the season. The defense wasn't nearly as good after they lost Micah Parsons.
Hmm.
How much of their defense being good this year was Micah Parsons, and how much was it, the coordinator? Um, but yeah, he's also coming into a tough situation. Look, I always like to root for a guy who's getting his first shot. I don't want his first shot to in the NFL to
Right.
blow up in his face and everybody hate him. But I don't. I'll say it shocked me. I didn't think. of him as like a premier coordinator candidate, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's really fair. We'll see where it works out. Again, he's got a lot of work. Kind of similar to when Aaron Glenn got hired. It's like, I wish you the best, but that's an interesting situation y'all got to work through with your new GM as well. They got to get that worked out. But
Hopefully he's given the Mike McDaniel leash, especially since he's a lot less hyped than Mike McDaniel coming in. So maybe they'll give him, a good 5 years to really settle in before they make a decision. That'd only be fair.
yeah, I think so as well. Next hire that happened right after the national championship game Monday night. The rumor for the Titans, it was interesting. It was either Robert Saleh or it was Matt Nagy. And apparently there was a report that Saleh was potentially heading on his way to Arizona. If he didn't get the Titans job, he was going to leave. The Titans probably heard that and said, well, shoot, let's not let that happen. Tennessee Titans hiring Robert Saleh as their head coach. Saleh spent Monday with the Titans. They seem to be impressed, and they're going to move forward with him. And just my personal opinion, look, it's really interesting. I'm happy for the guy. He's a great guy. I'm happy to see him get a second chance because what happened in New York there, no, I mean, it's hard to blame all that on him there, but I'm excited to see him get another shot because I think he deserves it. He's a great coach. I think he could be a great head coach in the league in the right situation. But I'm going to need to see what the offensive coaching staff's going to be under him to see what the development of Cam Ward can be because he's coming to a situation with a better quarterback than he did in New York. But I'm happy to see him get a chance. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, and inject this into my veins. I was a pretty big Robert Saleh defender when he got fired in New York, because Aaron Rodgers says so. Is kind of why he got fired. That's
Right.
why he got fired. Sure, they weren't the greatest product to put on the field, but he made them appealing enough where Aaron Rodgers wanted to come play quarterback there. But all of a sudden, when Aaron Rodgers is playing bad football, it's Robert Saleh's fault. And
Mm-hmm.
when I have an opportunity to get my friends promoted to head coach, I'm going to take that opportunity. That's what Aaron Rodgers does. He's a slime ball. He's a grease ball, and I hate him. Uh, so yeah, Robert Saleh is a great defensive mind, but I agree with you. Yeah, he's going to have to build his offensive staff. The offense wasn't wowzers while he was there, even when he had,
Yeah.
Zach Wilson, who was supposed to be good. So, yeah, he needs somebody that's going to help him develop Cam Ward and take this team a long way. But like I said, I'd be looking at Ruben Bain with everything this team's
Mm-hmm.
done. Man, look at some of the great edge rushers that Robert Saleh has been able to coach in his career.
Yeah.
The Nick Bosa, Quinnen Williams. Look at how good those guys are. So yeah, this is a guy I'm happy to see get another opportunity, and I think this is a huge hire for Tennessee.
Yeah, and just a fun little thing to throw in here. Obviously, him and Liam Cohen had a bit of a after game incident this year in the matchup. But Piers Schrager posted this talking about last year the Jags were down to Liam Cohen and Robert Saleh, and they chose to go in the direction of Liam Cohen. And it said this is the part that had me said this year Saleh had eyes on the Titans job. So I mean I think there's a little bit of a rivalry
Yeah,
there kind of building between those two. And all I can say is I'm glad we get to see that twice a year from a non-biased perspective.
yeah, me too. With having no particular interest in either team, it'll be interesting to see what transpires there. But you're right, I completely forgot about that. Like post game whole back
Yeah.
and forth
I,
that
I
went
still
down.
don't even know 100% what it was about, but I know they were hollering at each other after that game.
Yeah. If you hadn't asked me right now, I probably could have remembered what they were saying, yelling at each other on the sideline.
Right.
But yeah, it was it'll be interesting to see, that's for sure. And maybe bring some more life into this always open door in the AFC South.
Hey, I'm game for it. And honestly, did you see Baker Mayfield's tweet to Kevin Stefanski? I'm hoping you saw that.
No, I did not.
Oh, you'll love that. I gotta find it. So yesterday there was an article like someone made that said Falcons coach Kevin Stefanski had a dumpster fire at quarterback in Cleveland. Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson failed, which started a chain of 11 other starters. And Baker Mayfield did a quote tweet on top of that said, "Failed is quite the reach, pal. Still waiting on a text or call from him after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage. Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach." Get my
Yeah,
popcorn ready for that one.
that'll be interesting to see going back and forth in the NFC South. Um, I don't know. I'd like to know. I mean, kind of sucks that he hasn't reached out allegedly since then. But I would love to know how much of that was Stefanski's decision because I was always under the impression he did not have a lot of say in the
Right.
Deshaun Watson Baker Mayfield situation. Also, to call Baker Mayfield again a failure when he took that team to the playoffs
Literally
is
played through like a torn shoulder, and they were like, "Nope, not good enough. Not good enough for us," and
we
decided to
haven't
move
been to
on
the
from him.
playoffs in a long amount of years, and we finally feel like we got it semi right on a quarterback. But let's ship him off for I was about to use some choice words to describe Deshaun Watson, but I won't go that far.
Yeah,
But let's just say an individual, a suspicious individual,
yeah.
um,
To say the
who at
least.
the time, who at the time those allegations were already out about.
Right, right, right. It was a while, but nonetheless, I can't wait for those kind of rivalries to build up. And then the last hire as of right now, unless one decides to break in the next 5 minutes, the one that me and you text each other and we saw it the other night, and we both were like, yes. And that's Mike McDaniel taking down, turning down head coaching opportunities, turning down other OC jobs, and is going to become the Chargers offensive coordinator. Honestly, I want to give my props to Jim Harbaugh here. This was a gutsy move. I know he and Greg Roman had a great relationship, but it was the right move to move on from him and to bring someone in like Mike McDaniel with some of the pieces on this offense and what he's been able to do in the past on lineups. I'm really intrigued about what they could be this next year.
I am too. I'm excited. And you think about the pieces: Herbert, Quentin Johnson kind of had a year this year. Maybe Keenan Allen is going to come back. Lad McConkey's been good. You get Omarion Hampton back healthy, and Vidal can be a nice little piece to play off that. He likes that two back system.
Mm-hmm.
Likes to work in those running backs. And then look, offensive line struggled this year, but if you can get Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt back to full health, that's a good start at tackle to rebuild this offensive line.
Yeah, all I can say is, yep, I can't wait for it. I know it's a good hire whenever I see all the AFC West teams just being like freaking kidding me. The hire, I'm like, that's how I know it's a good hire. So, nonetheless,
Yeah.
that's the latest hires as of right now. The only thing that's come out is that Brian Flores has a deal as a contract extension with the Vikings. He said he's still looking at like head coaching jobs still, but if he chooses not to get the or doesn't get the head coaching jobs, he will be back in Minnesota. So, I mean, if he doesn't get coaching jobs, Minnesota should be very excited to get him back. That's probably that's literally the latest thing I have as of right now.
Yeah, I hate all the garbage that Brian Flores gets because, man,
I mean, he literally got in trouble down there because he was winning too much for the owner's sake. That was literally what got him in trouble.
and we've seen that proven factual because the NFL brought down a pretty hard sanction
Hmm.
on the Miami Dolphins after that investigation. So let's just say he wasn't lying.
No,
Um, so, with all that being said, to me, it almost feels like there's a grudge between owners in the NFL uh, and Brian Flores
hmm
that just kind of keeps him, at least for the most part, from getting these jobs. But he's a great guy to interview because, let's be honest, he's a minority, and that honor, that
the
fulfills that
Rooney Rule.
rule,
Yep,
the Rooney Rule. Right, and that's his big lawsuit against the NFL is that he's just used as that
yep,
just so you can get your minority interview and then you don't even have to talk to him again. So I know that that's a huge issue. Don't want to make it all political and everything,
right.
but it is unfortunate that it almost feels like he never gets a chance because the defenses he's coached every year since he's been a
My
head coach
gosh.
have been phenomenal. And when he was a head coach, he got in trouble from ownership for winning too much. I like Brian Flores. I think he's been kind of cheated in his coaching career. I'd love to see him get another opportunity somewhere.
Again, right. He's a finalist as of right now for the Steelers or Ravens job. And all I can say is this. If he's the Ravens coach, I will say this again. For right now for the Steelers, it looks like it's Chris Shula, Brian Flores, or maybe Mike McCarthy's a name that's kind of getting thrown around. But I would be perfectly happy if Brian Flores was hired as Steelers coach. I would be ecstatic if he was my head coach. Somebody that gets mad, get in trouble for winning too much, brother, just win here and you're going to get fans everywhere. We don't give a crap. Make sure you're
Yeah.
winning. And hopefully, he gets a lot more say here, but we'll see where that leads. Let's dive into these conference championships, Austin. Two very intriguing matchups. First one at 2 p.m. on Sunday. Broncos hosting the Patriots in the AFC Championship. Feels like we're back in 2015, 2016 with this one. And look, the big thing here, obviously, what does Sean Payton have drawn up for Jared Stidham in this football game? What can he do with it? The big thing I've heard, J.K. Dobbins might be back, which if they get J.K. Dobbins back, could be a big boost for the Broncos in this matchup. Going against this Patriots team who's looking to get back to the Super Bowl. Intriguing matchup in Denver. What do you see happening Sunday afternoon? Who's going to represent the AFC in Super Bowl 60?
Look, I see a low scoring, close game here. You just kind of look at what the Patriots have done so far, and it's not that it hasn't been impressive, but the games have been close. And now with the Broncos already playing a close game against the Bills, and now kind of losing a little bit of that edge on offense, I think you see Jared Stidham. I don't think he's going to have a bad game, but I think he's going to have to settle in a little bit, kind of get his wits about him. But at the end of the day, with a close game, look, I'm going to rely on Drake May's going to make that big play again, like we saw him make, pretty much both games this postseason where it's been close, and then the fourth quarter he's had that drive that kind of is like, okay, here's where we put the kind of punctuation point on this game. I think a similar thing happens here, and the Patriots punch their ticket to Super Bowl 60.
Yeah, again, I want to. Well, first of all, shout out Nick Foles for his tweet that he posted to get them fired. Did you see this one? This one was pretty funny. I can't lie.
Was it about, the Patriots record against backup quarterbacks?
Yes, in championship type games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't lie. I saw that. I was like, that's one of the best tweets of the year. I can't lie. That's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah.
But
That was a good one.
yeah, I was about to say it was a pretty good one. But as far as the game goes, like I said, I agree. I think it's low scoring game here. I think Jared Stidham can do well. Look, if he doesn't turn the ball over, like 4 times like CJ Stroud, like if he's efficient and doesn't turn the ball over, we're looking at potentially happening here in this matchup. And I can see Denver potentially win this game at home. Again, I'm going to lean, though, with the Patriots. Probably I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to lean with the Patriots. Again, and it's like I said, Drake May has made the big throws late in the games in these close moments. We've seen the big throws to kind of be the separator in the game. And I could see that happening where it's like maybe honestly, I'll just say a hypothetical, like a 13-6 Patriots lead fourth quarter, or like entering fourth quarter. They score a touchdown to go up 20-6, and that feels like the dagger moment in it. I kind of think that could happen here, so I agree with you. I'm going to take the Patriots. As much as it pains me to say the Patriots should go back to the Super Bowl, I feel like a word which Patriots fans who want to talk about how rough that their stretch has been since their Super Bowls, get the frick out of here with that crap. I don't even want to hear that. Some fan bases haven't even known what that's. I don't even want to hear that crap.
Yeah. It hasn't even been 10 years since your last Super Bowl. The body is still warm.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's actual crazy talk.
Yeah, it really is. But enough about that. Let's dive into this matchup on Sunday night. Boy, oh boy, what a matchup it is, this NFC Championship matchup. Seahawks hosting the Rams. Obviously, these two split the regular season matchups, went head to head. Here's a fun fact. They split points scored in those games combined. Rams 58, Seahawks 57. Total yards in those games. Rams 830, Seahawks 829. Like, it's about as even gets here. Obviously, the big thing, the Rams really haven't seen a full Kenneth Walker load against them, like a full Kenneth Walker load against them in that one. So maybe that's something to keep an eye on. But there's no surprises. This is the third time these two teams have faced off, and we discussed this most of the season that this could potentially happen. And it's for a trip to Super Bowl 60. Who is it that wins this one in Seattle on Sunday night?
Well, look, I think it's going to be a good game again. I think another close game. I don't think nearly as low scoring with the way these two offenses have been playing. And I think weather will probably be a lot less of a factor in this game than it was in that Chicago Rams game that kind of kept the offense at bay for LA. But I'm pitted in a spot. Seahawks look really, really good. in that game last week. Um, but I also picked the Rams at the beginning of the playoffs to
Right.
go to the Super Bowl. Um, but here's what I'm going to go to. I'm going to go with the Rams in this one. I think they come in, they beat the odds, they win the game. I think they're a healthier team. They have the defense that can kind of challenge the Seahawks. I don't think we're going to see a million turnovers from Sam Darnold. I don't think he's going to play a bad game. But look, they run that two back system for a reason. I don't know that Kenneth Walker is going to be able to have the same type of success.
Hmm.
And if he doesn't get going, they don't really have a backup option to lean on
No.
like they usually do. I think their run game is going to be a little bit slower, and that's where the Rams find a way to kind of get ahead and get the game going, especially with how well Kyron Williams played last week. I'd look for him to get some more touches. Also, Matthew Stafford's going to play a better game, make some bigger plays. But I like the Rams to win this game and move on to Super Bowl 60.
Yeah, this is probably the most hyped I've been for a conference championship in some time. Like this is a big matchup between these two. Again, to me, I think, like you said, kind of talking about with Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker carried the load for the most part. Can he do that another full week against not just a better, but a more, not a healthier, but some would say a better defense than what the Niners has been for most of the season without the injuries? Um, I just don't see it happening. Plus, listen, again, it's not that I doubt Sam Darnold, but again, he really didn't have to get tested last week in the game because they got up so much so early. But I just got to see it to believe it. If you get what I mean, it's not that I doubt him. It's
Yeah,
just I want to see what it is, and I want him to prove it. And if he does, tip of the cap. I'm nothing against the guy.
I agree. I think he's shown a lot of progress this year. We've seen that pressure is not just the answer anymore. He's looked a lot more capable. You can't just blitz him, and that's the answer. Uh, But yeah, I'm with you. I don't I just don't know. I'm still worried about I don't think the injury is going to be as much of a problem this week, but
Right.
I am worried with the limited reps, the limited throws that he made in last week's practice and then last week's game. I'm sure he's probably not as limited as he was a week ago, but he's probably still a little bit limited. They're probably still not letting him throw a whole ton. I'm just worried that, if the run game doesn't get going and he has to start
Mhm.
making a lot of throws, is that going to take a toll on his arm? Is that gonna hurt him and be an impact? I'm not a medical expert. I'm not gonna claim to know how much of a deal that's gonna be, but
Right.
it seems like they were worried about the amount of throws he's gonna have to make, and if he has to make more than expected, I just think the Rams passing offense can kind of push past him.
Yeah, I think so. I couldn't agree more. Again, with that reasoning, with Kenneth Walker and with that needing to see Sam Darnold do it. Plus, I just favor Matthew Stafford more in the matchup. I'll pick the Rams in this matchup. So we both got Rams, both got the Patriots heading to Super Bowl 60. What a fun matchup that would be. 1 and 2 in MVP going head to head in Super Bowl. I think the talking heads at the top of the NFL would be happy if that was the Super Bowl matchup. But let's dive into our last segment, the bet of the week for this conference championship. Like I said, I want to talk about my two total bets for the national championship and for the NFL divisional round. I want to talk about them. You, sir, red hot, got both those picks right. What do you got for conference championship weekend here? What do you like?
Look, I'm talking about offense. I'm talking about big numbers. I like Rams Seahawks over 47 points in this
Ooh.
game. I think Stafford and company on the passing offense feel a little bit bottled up after, having a slow game, having the weather, really need to lean on the run. And again, Kyron Williams played great, but they want to pop it open. They want to hit those play actions. They want to hit those deep
Mhm.
balls. They want to get Puka and Devontae Adams making big plays. I think they're going to look to put up big numbers. I think the same thing for the Seahawks. Sam Darnold's probably feeling a little bit better. They're probably going to have to rely on him again to make some more throws to take some pressure off of Kenneth Walker and let him get the proper rest. I think we're going to see some big explosive offensive numbers from these teams. Obviously, JSN has also been awesome this season. And
Mhm.
again, Cooper Cup's been finding his stride coming into the end of the season. Had a pretty good, all things considered, 60 yards receiving led the team
Yep.
last week. He's coming into his own. And,
Hmm.
a chance to show out in the NFC Championship against your former team who dumped you for Devontae Adams would be a big opportunity for Cooper Cup. I'm expecting big numbers, exciting numbers, especially in the passing game. I like over 47 in this game.
Hey, there you go. I like it. I like it. So just for that, I'll go with the AFC Championship. I'll get a bet for that one. 42 and a half is way too close for me to bet that, although I'd probably lean under if I had to make a suggestion. I'll
I'm
take
with you.
Patriots minus 4.5. And it's not that I think they're gonna blow out the Broncos in this game.
I agree.
I think that a late touchdown or two could be the difference to push it out to where they comfortably win, maybe by 7 points, and Denver cuts into it late. But I think 4.5. I think the Patriots can take that on the road in Denver. I'll take them -4.5. But those are our bets of the week, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank you for watching this episode or listening, however you do. Massive shout out to you all. Recently, we reached 5,000 listens on Spotify
Wow.
for the Bold Take podcast. So a big thank you to y'all. We're getting over 50 subscribers actually on YouTube as well. So we are growing at an immense rate this year. So we appreciate you all that join us every single week to listen to us talk sports, give our bold takes about everything. And then obviously next week, we'll get you ready, talk NFL awards, special college football episode you won't want to miss. And of course, we got Super Bowl coming up in a couple of weeks. What better time to subscribe and listen to the Bold Take podcast? That's going to do it for us tonight. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Wader. And we want to thank you for listening.